Good evening, everybody. Here we are, well into December 2022 as I record this. And I thought tonight I would revisit the topic of water and hydration. It may be something you might think would be more relevant to talk about in the hot summer months when we can get sweaty and hot, and may think it's more appropriate to talk about dehydration. But it was brought home to me in the past week with regards to a client of mine who ended up passing out, fainting, rushing to hospital in an ambulance, spent 24 hours in hospital to be monitored. And the only thing that they could find at the end of that was signs of dehydration. So there was a serious incident, someone passed out, they were monitored, ECGs, all that sort of thing going on. But the blood test, all that was found wrong was dehydration in the body. So that was a little bit of an extreme example. But then I can think of the opposite end of the scale, going right back to when I was a student. And I was a bit concerned that this is going to put a really negative impact on the likes of nutritional therapists when somebody had taken advice from a nutritionist. I don't know how well, oh, somebody wants to join on video, but they're watching. Hopefully everything's okay. I don't know how well this person was qualified because it's not the advice I would give, but they were advised to drink 4 litres of water in a day. And this person had forgotten one day and consumed probably 4 litres of water in one go and actually died. So there are the two extremes. It's not funny, terrible. So of course you can imagine it gave whoever gave that advice at that time and whatever their training was, it just was like, oh my God, you know, that's really scary that something like that could result in the death of somebody. So the incident in the past week when somebody actually went into hospital and they passed out, and it was what was going on in the body that caused this to happen, and all they could find was dehydration. And yet we were heading for December and this cold spell. You can still get dehydration even when it's freezing cold. It's not just something that happens when we're hot. So I thought I would revisit the topic of water. How much water do we need? Do we need water itself? How much is required? How should we take it at this time of year? But on a brighter note, let's bear in mind that these incidents I've just mentioned are extremely rare. But I think the dehydration aspect is the one I want to focus on today, because I think most of us would understand that drinking 4 litres of fluid in one go, it would not be the right thing to do. And I come on and talk about why these things happen, what happened in the body in this incident. So why is water and being hydrated, why is it so important? Well, let's not forget that water is required for survival, and we need water over and above food. So we can go for weeks without food, but we can only last days without water. And this is because the body is roughly 60% water, an adult body. And when we start to think about where this fluid is located, we can start to understand just why it is so important. So the brain and heart are 73% water, the lungs are 83% water, skin 64% water, muscles and kidneys 79% water. And then when we think about where we find fluid in the body, of course we've got the blood, and the plasma is fluid. We've then got lymph fluid that's transporting our waste from our tissues back into the bloodstream to go to the liver to be detoxified and excreted from the body. The lymph fluid also contains white blood cells, and lymph can become very stagnant. As a naturopath, we talk about stagnant, congested lymph. So lymph fluid is really important. We've got our joints that contain synovial fluid between the joints, and it's the synovial fluid, so most of that is water, that is cushioning those joints and stopping the friction, say, between bones and keeping the joints moving smoothly. We've then got the extracellular fluid, which is between the cells. Often that's between the cell and, say, the lymph. So that gap between when the waste is coming out of cells, or from the blood before the nutrients get into the cells, it goes into what we call this extracellular fluid. And then we've got intracellular fluid. You know, our cells are highly made up of fluid itself that enables them to function. And I just checked and I found out and read that we are losing between 2 to 3 litres of fluid every single day. And of course, we are going to lose more when it is hot. So if we're sweating more, we're going to lose fluid. If we're doing a lot of exercise and all the activity and energy production and everything required and, you know, to pump oxygen around the body and more, we need more fluid then when we're exercising. If we're on diuretics, then we're going to need, you know, like medication like diuretics, we're going to need more fluid. If you've got diarrhea or vomiting syndrome going on, you're going to need more fluid. So, and I even read actually that we lose 1.5 litres of fluid on a 3-hour flight. So if you ever do long haul flights, which I often do, it's so important to keep sipping water and not just rely on the gin and tonics to get you through that flight. Even though you might be going on holidays, you need good hydrating fluids. Now, just going back to those 2 incidents to explain what's going on in the body, the person passing out, they're dehydrated. What happens is we've got this very delicate balance of electrolytes that needs to be maintained. Now, what electrolytes are, we think predominantly of sodium and potassium, but it also includes calcium, chloride, and magnesium. So these are electrolytes, they're salts, and they very fine-tuningly manage what is going on in the body. When the person's dehydrated, these electrolytes are becoming too high in the blood plasma, and that person, unfortunately, that consumed 4 litres of fluid or approximately that in just quick succession, it is rapidly diluting electrolytes in the blood so that the cells can't function. There's just not enough sodium, potassium, etc. to get into the cells to help muscles to function and to help cells to function. Hence what happened to that unfortunate soul in that incident. So electrolytes, they help regulate chemical reactions that are going on inside the cells all the time. You've got this very delicate balance between the electrolytes inside the cell and those outside the cell passing. You've got these pumps, the special pumps, iron pumps that are passing these electrolytes into and out of the cells at any one time. They help the muscles to contract. And it's a very, very fine balance. The kidneys and the adrenal glands and the hormones they produce, and the kidneys either decide to hang on to fluid if they think the blood plasma is getting too concentrated, or they allow more fluid to pass out. And the same with electrolytes, they either get pass out through urine, or the kidneys through the hormones are excreted will decide that they need to hold on to more. Unfortunately, you know, if the body gets into such a dehydrated state or overly diluted state, it's going to really struggle. Hence the passing out for this person that happened when they were dehydrated. So very important that we maintain this fine balance. Everyday signs of general dehydration to look out for are dry skin, having a dry mouth, poor concentration. I mean, I know there are other reasons for this, but if you struggle to function, fuzzy head, lightheadedness, poor concentration, can't think clearly, low energy, stiff joints, getting headaches, getting constipation. I would include dark circles under the eyes. I mean, it can also be to do with liver function there, but you know, dark circles under the eyes. Concentrated, dark, strong smelling urine. You know, your urine's going to be more concentrated first thing in the morning if you haven't been drinking through the night, which one wouldn't be expected to do. So your urine will be, and it's expected to be stronger in the morning, but not during the day. We say a well-hydrated person's urine should be more like straw coloured during the day. So that can be quite an obvious sign of not drinking enough. And orthostatic hypotension, what this means is if you stand up quickly your blood pressure can drop rapidly and you can feel a bit dizzy. One of the reasons for that is dehydration. So just be aware of that. If you often find that you stand up quickly and you're like, oh, you know, just don't feel quite right, it just might be a sign that you're not drinking enough fluid. Now, you might think I'd include in that being thirsty. Surely the most obvious sign in the world is that you'd be thirsty, and the thirst signal is going to tell you that you need to drink more fluid. But my belief is that we lose this thirst signal when we just don't generally drink a lot of water. I think it's very common that the body's going to confuse hunger when it is actually thirsty. And I know myself, because I'm used to consuming and drinking a lot of water. I don't travel in my car without having a bottle of water. I know that I feel thirsty. I almost get into a panic mode if I leave the house for whatever reason and don't take water with me. I'll be like, oh my God, I'm going to get really dehydrated. I just don't feel right in myself. So I'm sort of very finely tuned, you could say, to want water. And therefore I'm very conscious of the signs that I need water. Whereas I think if you don't generally drink water throughout the day, that you're going to lose this sign. So how much water or fluid, and we'll talk about both of those, do we need to consume? So I mentioned that the body is going to lose 2 to 3 litres of fluid a day. And therefore we should be drinking 2 to 3 litres of fluid every day. You're going to get a little bit from the food that you eat, but the majority of this has to come from fluids, not from our food. I think it's a myth to be relying on food to say that you can get your fluids from food. That is just not true. So if you're losing, standard person is going to lose 2 to 3 litres of fluid, then you need to be consuming 2 to 3 litres of fluid every single day. My general advice for most of my clients is 2 litres of, ideally, this water, hydration fluid. I'll say a bit more about that in a moment. But the taller you are, the heavier you are, the more active you are. If you work in a very hot, sweaty environment, have a very physical job, then the more fluid you're going to need, and the closer to 3 litres you're likely to need to have on a daily basis. And it is important that you try and get this mostly from water sources. Now, by water sources, what I'm including in that is, of course, water, but I do also include herbal and fruit teas, the ones that are not a stimulant to the body. So herbal teas and fruit teas are very hydrating to the body. They've got some flavouring to them, natural flavouring, I would hope. And so the natural flavouring is just going to be just add an extra little bit of flavour, but you're actually really getting water when you do that. They're very hydrating sources. You could include a very diluted cordial, but be aware of the sugar. That's the reason why I say very diluted. I do not include in here artificial sweeteners. I do not think artificial sweeteners have any role in our body at all. There's a lot of negative studies around artificial sweeteners, and whilst they're approved for use in the UK by the health nutrition regulations, they are chemicals. They mess with the brain in its understanding of whether it's had enough sugar, and messes with our hunger signals, and it really upsets the gut microflora as well, these artificial sweeteners. So I don't think they've got any role in our diets at all. I would much rather somebody has a very diluted sugar cordial than have any artificial sweeteners in the diet at all. So what if you don't like water? My mum says she doesn't like water. I think that's quite common in elderly people. They don't like water. Maybe they're just not drunk enough. I don't know, when they're growing up. Some of my clients just say they just don't like water. They don't like the taste of water. Well, flavour it in some way. I start my day every single day with slices of lemon in hot water. Well, I'm giving you some ideas now, Sylvie, if you don't like water. Put some flavour in there. Slices of lemon in hot water. I start my day with that every single day. Or if you like cold water, I don't particularly like really cold water. You can put a jug in the fridge. You could add lemon slices to that. You could add orange slices, cucumber, mint. Just flavour your water in natural ways so that it's more palatable to you. And if you like it really cold, put it in the fridge. If you don't like it really cold, leave a jug of water on the side. If you like it hot because it's really cold, you know, then do what I do. Add hot water to lemon slices. I've been doing that for 25 years now, way before I trained as a nutritional therapist, and I can't imagine starting my day any other way. In fact, when I go on holiday, I have to take lemon and ginger herbal tea bags with me because I need that sort of hydrating lemony taste first thing in the morning, before I even think about having a cup of coffee. It's just like, oh, can't stand the thought of having coffee before I've had something that's going to hydrate me when I first wake up in the morning. And for me, just a glass of water is okay, but it just doesn't do the same thing as something that's flavoured. So there are plenty of ways that you can flavour your water naturally. Really aim for natural ways of doing that. Teas and coffee, they count to a degree, but do bear in mind, we are no longer allowed to say that tea and coffee are dehydrating, but they do have a very mild diuretic effect. I know if I drink coffee, I want to go to the toilet, but that we are told by scientific studies that teas and coffees only have a mild diuretic effect. But it's very different having a mild diuretic effect to just water having a hydrating effect. So there's a difference. So water, and that's going to have a positive impact on your hydration status compared to teas and coffees. So they're not dehydrating, but there again, I wouldn't call them hydrating. They are also stimulants. You know, when you're having teas and coffees that are not decaffeinated versions, they act as a stimulant to the body. So they have a negative sort of stressful impact on the body. So keep them to a minimum. You know, I say absolutely no more than 4 cups, not a mug, of tea or coffee a day, ideally less than that. And I really don't think decaffeinated have any part in our diets because they use chemicals to remove the caffeine, and some of those chemicals have negative consequences for us as well. So I'm not a fan of decaffeinated. I like my coffee, and I'd much rather have proper coffee and keep it to 2, maximum 3 cups a day for me personally, rather than any decaffeinated or anything else like that, which I don't like. I'd rather have the proper stuff than have anything else. And just to remember, you know, when we think about this fluid, and going back to what I said right at the very start, you need to sip this water and these hydrating fluids throughout the day. It's no good trying to catch up. You know, you may try and catch up a little bit, but you really shouldn't be consuming more than half a litre in one go at any one time. So sip it. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed is the time to be drinking that 2 to 3 litres of fluid throughout the day. If you're the sort of person that is worried that by drinking close to bedtime, it's going to make you wake up and need to go to the toilet, and then you're going to struggle to get back to sleep, then, you know, have your cut-off point a little bit earlier in the evening, but you still need to consume that amount of fluid from the moment you wake up to that cut-off point, and be very conscious that when you wake up in the morning, you need to start the day with some hydrating fluids to get you going before you have anything else. So that's my latest version. I know I've recorded stuff on hydrating fluids in the past, but I thought it was a great opportunity to have a fresh look at this and bring you the latest information. And it was just this sort of scary incident at a cold, wintry time of the year that was caused by dehydration. I thought it was a great time to have a catch up on keeping the body hydrated. Always, always, always we need to think about hydration, because the body functions with water over and above its desire and need. It needs food, but it can last for weeks without food, but you can only last days without water. So thank you for watching. Remember, all of my lives are on, yeah, wonderful. Keep a glass on the go, Sylvie. I have water on the go, and I always have a glass in the kitchen. So every time I leave my desk or anywhere else and I go to the kitchen, the glass is there to remind me to fill it up and drink some. Remember, all my videos are on my YouTube channel, Peyton Principles, Natural Health. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back next Tuesday. Take care. Have a good week. Bye.